She was 8 months pregnant when he handed her the divorce papers, called security to escort her out, and told her she had never contributed anything real to his empire. They left her with nothing. No home, no access, no one willing to answer her calls. His mother celebrated over dinner. His girlfriend moved in by morning. But 6 months later, Sophia walked back into that boardroom, calm, composed. And what happened next left every single one of them powerless, exposed, and trembling in front of the people who had cheered the loudest when she fell. Before we get into this story, I need one thing from you. YouTube only shows this to more people when you subscribe and comment. So hit that subscribe button right now. Then drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. Nigeria at midnight, London with your morning tea, Philippines on your lunch break. Let me know you're here. This community means everything. Now let's get into it. The Mercer estate breathed old money the way some houses breathe mold. Marble floors, crystal everything. Walls lined with artwork that cost more than most people earn in a lifetime. And at the center of it all stood Julian Mercer, a man who believed with absolute conviction that he had built something extraordinary. He hadn't. Sophia had. Sophia moved through that house like she was furniture. Quiet, useful, noticed only when something needed doing. 7 months pregnant, still managing 3 property accounts from a laptop in the room Julian called her little hobby corner. She ran the numbers that kept his investment firm solvent. She made the calls that kept his suppliers loyal. She transferred funds at 2 a.m. to cover the disasters he created, then watched him wake up and call himself a genius over breakfast. Julian never asked where the money came from. Men like Julian don't question good fortune. They assume it's their birthright. His mother, Diane, was the more dangerous one, sharp behind pearls and perfume. She watched Sophia from the sitting room doorway one evening and called out, sweet as poison, "Sophia, darling, you look exhausted. Pregnancy must be so hard when you're naturally disorganized." The insult landed exactly where Diane intended. Soft enough to sound like concern, sharp enough to draw blood. Sophia smiled, said nothing, and went back to the spreadsheet that would save their company for the 4th time that year. Have you ever been so powerful that you chose to be invisible? That was Sophia's strategy, and eventually it became her weapon. The other woman arrived like smoke. Her name was Claire Voss, a consultant Julian hired who understood immediately that the fastest path to power was removing the person already holding it. She sat beside Julian at every meeting. Spoke in strategy language that made cruelty sound like efficiency. One evening, Sophia stood outside Julian's study and heard Claire say, calm as ice, "The most successful men I've worked with had one thing in common. They stopped letting sentiment make decisions for them." Julian nodded like she was delivering scripture. The humiliations came slowly at first, then all at once. Julian stopped consulting Sophia about anything. Introduced her at dinners as the mother of his children, which was technically true and deliberately diminishing. Diane told guests that Sophia was never really built for this world, but bless her heart, she tries. Claire sat across the table and smiled the smile of someone who had already won. Sophia sat at those dinner tables, 8 months pregnant, and absorbed every word. While inside, she calculated exactly how many emergency transfers she had authorized that quarter to cover Julian's decisions. The number was 4. The total was staggering. Then came the call at 3 a.m. Sophia's mother was in emergency surgery. The hospital needed payment authorization before they would proceed. Sophia called Julian from the waiting room, her voice steady, her hands shaking. Julian sighed like she was being dramatic. "At some point," he said, "we have to accept that these things happen. Throwing money at the inevitable isn't smart planning." Her mother was 66 years old. The surgery cost less than Julian's last watch. Sophia hung up, drove to the hospital alone, paid every bill from accounts Julian didn't know existed, sat in that waiting room through the night with her unborn daughter kicking softly against her ribs, and made a promise to herself and to both of them. This was the last time. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. Julian had already changed the security codes. Claire's car was in the driveway before Sophia reached the front door with her suitcase. He stood in the foyer and told her she had 72 hours to vacate, that she had never truly understood the business, that her departure would honestly be a relief for everyone involved. Claire stood just behind him, face neutral, eyes bright with a victory she had been planning for months. Sophia looked at her husband one final time. Then she left without a single word. Because some exits are louder in silence, she called her family's attorney from the parking lot. "Execute the protocol," she said. "It's time." What happened next was not dramatic, it was precise. Within 48 hours, the firm's payroll flagged insufficient funds. Suppliers started calling about overdue invoices. Partners who had worked with Sophia's father for decades stopped returning Julian's calls and began routing their business elsewhere. Every account Julian assumed was corporate turned out to be funded through Sophia's family trust. Assets she controlled, money that was never his. He had been spending her inheritance for 3 years and calling it his success. Claire's resignation came 16 days after the divorce was filed. She posted about exciting new opportunities with organizations that value stability. Nobody mentioned Julian's name in the comments. Diane's medical treatments, quietly covered through Sophia's family accounts for years, stopped processing. The hospital sent formal notices. Julian called Sophia, voice cracking in a way she had never heard before. "Please," he said, "I don't understand what's happening." "You called me a burden to your legacy, Julian," she said. "Figure it out with all that genius." She hung up, fed her newborn daughter, and slept better than she had in 4 years. The boardroom on the 11th floor of Mercer Capital had Julian's name on the door. It wouldn't for much longer. He arrived to find Sophia already seated at the head of the table. Navy blazer, posture straight. A leather folder in front of her containing documents his lawyers had never seen and could not challenge. Several board members, men who had known her father for decades, stood when she entered. Julian did not notice that detail until it was too late. The lead consultant laid out the truth without mercy. Mercer Capital had never functionally belonged to Julian. The entire structure was established by Sophia's father to protect his life's work from exactly this kind of mismanagement. Sophia held controlling authority through an irrevocable family trust. Every decision Julian believed was his had been underwritten by her. The moment she withdrew, the company had 4 weeks of real capital remaining. Julian looked at his wife. The woman he had called unremarkable, the woman he had humiliated in front of his board, his mother, his girlfriend, and everyone who mattered in their world. The woman he had handed divorce papers to while she was 8 months pregnant and had security walk her out of her own home. "You could have told me," he said. "Any of this, you could have said something." Sophia closed her folder. "I spent 4 years showing you exactly who I was," she said. "You just never looked." Security revoked his credentials before the meeting adjourned. His name was removed from the directory that afternoon, and Sophia walked out into the sunlight, called her mother, and said simply, "It's done." Sophia never raised her voice, never begged, never performed her pain for people who had already decided not to believe her. She simply did what she had always done. She worked, she waited, she protected what mattered, her mother, her children, her dignity, in that order. Some people spend years being told they are too quiet, too soft, too ordinary to matter. And those people are the most dangerous ones in any room, because they already know exactly what they are capable of. They are just waiting for you to give them a reason. If this story moved you, you already know what to do. Subscribe. And drop a comment below telling me about a time you stayed quiet when you had every right to burn it all down. I want to read every single one. And if someone in your life needs to hear this today, send it to them right now.